I just love hosting people and making people feel comfortable within a space. We're welcoming people basically into our homes, and if they're not feeling comfortable, then there's something wrong there.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. What is it about the lifestyle afforded to those in the hospitality industry? Sure, there's the long, unsocial hours of work, but a connection to people and food, the energy and unpredictability of hospitality draw people in that are looking for a sense of adventure. How do you maintain that initial spark that drew you in? Sarah Crowley is the co-owner and restaurant manager of Union Bank in Orange. Sarah, how are you?
I'm really good. And yourself, Huck?
I'm great. You're out there in Orange, back where you grew up. Is Orange quite different to when you grew up?
Absolutely. So growing up, there wasn't a whole lot going on in Orange, to be honest. Small town, that kind of small town mentality of you went to school, you hang out with your friends, but there really wasn't anything else in terms of what was going on. Our Friday nights were the local Chinese in town that we'd just take home, and it was more it was definitely a lot quieter back then growing up.
Give us a picture of Orange at the moment. What excites you about what's going on there?
The food scene in Orange has absolutely just taken off probably in the last 3 or 4 years. So there's a lot of young people moving to Orange. So after COVID, I think people really realised how close Orange was to Sydney. And a lot of people did make the move. There's definitely more people out from the hospital coming into Orange, and there's a lot more going on. So people have been drawn to Orange and realised that, it has got a lot of draw cards. Food and wine, especially at the moment, is really kicking off.
You've got Union Bank there in Orange that you've had for a couple of years now. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, so we moved back here 4 years ago, and we opened the restaurant 6 months prior to COVID, obviously not knowing that was all going to happen. That was a bit of a rude shock. But I think in hindsight, Dom and I, moving back to Orange, we were quite young, 26, opening a restaurant, a bit of ego involved, and, a little bit of ignorance is bliss at the time. We just went, all guns blazing and didn't really think too much about the structure. COVID kind of provided that opportunity for us to take a step back after 6 months, start opening a restaurant. You run down, you're tired, you're not really seeing straight. And we really were forced to step back and realise, we weren't, maybe doing what we truly loved. We were kind of just doing what we thought was expected of us. And, the UB, the building itself has a lot of history and character, and has had many past lives. So we had to really kind of step back and take a moment and say, okay, what do we really want to do with this venue, and where do we want to see it go, and what would we want if we were coming to the UB? And that really was a turning point for us. Reopening after COVID, and just bringing back, I love the service side of things, and we have some amazing regulars and people that come every week, or people that visit from Sydney, and it's their go-to, and that's just what we love is community and making sure everybody has the best experience possible.
What sort of things were you able to implement? And you afforded the time to change the structure and look at the operations. How different is it now? What have you implemented?
We changed the menu completely. So the Union Bank is a very large building. It has multiple spaces across the venue. So it was quite hard to really navigate what to do where. So we have quite a small kitchen to be able to facilitate the whole venue. So we had a casual menu and a formal menu, which was in the schoolhouse restaurant. We changed that completely, and we just went with one menu across the whole entire venue. And that seemed to really help us focus on our food, the quality of the food, and also, with 2 menus comes a lot more having to, learn so much more about the menu. And so for the staff, it was really an opportunity for them to hone in on their skill set and really learn about the menu and be able to sell the menu. And it just kind of created a more authentic experience in the end.
What's the response been like from customers with this sort of more refined model?
Really good. I mean, I think the 2 menus confused people at the beginning. Why can't I have that outside, or why can't I have that inside? And we got that, but we tried to really stick to our guns. So the way we've flipped it on its head is, you book into the restaurant, it's a premium experience, it's the same food, but the offering is, you can come in, you can walk in off the street into the beautiful courtyard when it's not 7 degrees, which it currently is right now in Orange. And you can, that's where we really prioritise our special occasions. And, we've got private dining spaces as well, with that same menu, the shared style concept. And it has really, because I think we've then believed in that menu and we really trust it. And I think it makes it a lot easier to be able to sell something when you truly believe in it yourself, at the end of the day. And I think that was kind of, what it came down to.
I want to explore a little bit more about what you're doing there at Union Bank shortly, but you grew up in Orange. Take us back to when you were young. What sort of role did food play in your life?
Definitely a huge role. My parents, they're extremely sociable people. They love catching up with their friends on the weekends, going to barbecues. And my mum played a really integral role in, hosting people. My dad's a wine lover. My mum, cooks incredible food. So we were never, there was never a moment of kind of, just fend for yourselves. We really had a kind of rich upbringing in terms of family and friends. It was always the most integral part of growing up, and they really kind of showed me that in terms of having people over and, you're a host at the end of the day. And if you're welcoming people into your home, you're putting on a spread and you're, offering beautiful food. And I really got I was really painted in a really great way growing up.
Is there any sort of dishes of your mother's that you look back at fondly from when you grew up that you can share?
Yeah, definitely. She makes a famous lasagna still to this day, which our friends and family, all just crave it. And she sometimes even packs it up and sends it down to my sisters in Sydney. So, it's definitely something that's, really precious in my, my heart and my head, because even when I'm feeling a little bit, a little bit down, she'll whip out the lasagna and drop it off home. And it's kind of really, really feels just comfortable. And it's a fond memory growing up and even now.
Taking over Union Bank was what drew you back to Orange, but tell us about sort of when you decided to leave and, the reasons behind it and what you did.
Growing up in Orange, it was great. And then you kind of hit your teenage years and, you think you're invincible and you just, I almost outgrew Orange in a way and couldn't leave quick enough, to be honest. And I was on the first kind of flight out of here when I turned 18. I did try and convince my parents that I could travel solo to South America, but they weren't quite convinced that was the right thing for an 18-year-old female to do at that stage. And, I resented them a little bit for it, but in hindsight, I think they were right. But I did take on Canada, America and Europe for a year on my own, which was amazing. I mean, I always was a really independent person my whole life, but that really kind of drew me back to reality of, how hard life can really be, especially overseas on your own. And my dad being an accountant, he always convinced me that having a credit card was never a good idea. So I went over just with my bank card, and there was a moment in Italy, and I was in Positano, and I was trying to get back to Naples, and my bank card wouldn't work. So I was in the middle of Italy on my own as an 18-year-old girl, and wondering how the hell I get past this moment in life. And I called my parents in a panic and just said, I'm having issues with my card, and they were trying to figure out a way to get around it. And there was this gentleman. I was in a hostel at the moment and at that time, and he just came over to me. He's like, I didn't mean to pry, and I just heard your situation, and I'd really like to help you. And I just said, no, like, I'll figure this out. I'll make it work. And I was pretty distraught at that point. And he just said, put yourself in my shoes. If you were ever in this situation, would you help me? And I said, absolutely. And he said, well, I'm not letting you leave until you let me help you. So he paid for my bus ticket back to Naples so I could find a proper bank, and was sorted. And yeah, I know. And I was in such a fluster that I never got the man's name. I just regret that to this day. I just want to thank him somehow. Yeah. But it just goes to show that, things come full circle. And, I think it makes me want to, go above and beyond because of those precious moments. And, you never know, what's going to happen or who's going to, come along and help you. So, yeah.
I know you were just 18 and you had a limited budget, but do you have any food stories from this sort of year-long adventure that you went on around the globe?
Yeah, so in Canada, I met a lot of Swedes and Germans, and they humbly welcomed me back to Sweden for Swedish Midsummer.
Wow.
I know, yeah. So one of them had a beautiful home on the lake, and because Swedish Midsummer, the sun never goes down, so you just feel you're partying 24/7. But the food, and I think it was back then. I guess I didn't extremely I didn't appreciate food as much as I do now. Once I returned to Sydney, but definitely the experiences and the welcoming of people into their homes, and for them to offer you the food and the wine, and just I think that hospitality is just goes such a long way, and they're some of my fondest memories. Yeah.
Where did you get your start in hospitality, and what was it like?
Yeah, so I I ran out of money, and I came back to Sydney and crashed with my sister in Camperdown, and she got sick of me mooching off her, so she literally dragged me into the car and said, "You need to get a job." And like I said, what felt like every pub in Sydney, she drove me to, and got a few knockbacks, and my resume was about 5 pages long, and I finally go into this pub or a venue, and this lady greets me, and she's got tattoos and beautiful hair and glasses, and I was extremely intimidated by her. Her name's Elise, and she just greeted me, and I handed my resume, and she said, "Well, first of all, you're applying for a pub job, not a you're not applying to be a doctor." So, get your resume down to 1 page. So I did, and I came back in and handed over my resume to her, and she gave me a trial shift, and I felt like everything went really well. And then I didn't hear anything back, and my sister forced me to go back in and follow up on this job, which I was absolutely mortified by. I said, I can't do that. And she said, you have to, because you need a job. So I went back in, and the look on Elisa's face was, I'll never forget her face. And she called me a couple of days later, and she said, the only reason I'm giving you this job is because how persistent you are, and I really like that about somebody. So about people. So I got the job and met some incredible people there working at a loco in Surrey Hills. When it was really kind of, kicking off, and, there was lines out the door, and I really got thrown in the deep end, but I was working with some really cool people shaking plenty of margaritas. Um,
El Loco was like super busy. They took over the Excelsior Hotel, a part of the Maryvale group. But do you have any stories of kind of what you took from your time there?
how to hustle. I it was very busy, and I was extremely intimidated. I hadn't had much interaction with people in that environment before. The once you've had a couple of margaritas, you get quite boisterous, and people, can react in different ways once they've had a few drinks. So I really had a few people there that were really integral in teaching me how to react in or not react in those situations. I'm quite an empathetic person, and I can get upset quite easily. But they taught me that you're there to create a good experience for these people, and that there's points that people can't move past, but how to really tackle those situations and move very quickly. There was a few women there as well that really took me under their wing and showed me the ropes, and I'm still friends with them to this day. So yeah.
How did you land a job at Rockpool Bar and Grill? You spent a fair bit of time there. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I met a gentleman called MC. I'm sure you know him. He owns PS40 and is an incredible guy. And I had a short stint with him. We opened the Cliff Dive as a group after I moved on from Maryvale. And we met there and really hit it off. He really shaped my cocktail skills and showed me that, a cocktail's not just something that you throw together. It really is, a form of art. And if you don't get it right, it's just totally off. So he really made me appreciate cocktails and the work and the effort that goes into that. And with Cliff Dive, there was obviously very late hours, and I couldn't do that anymore. So I applied for a job at Rockpool, and luckily he was my reference and gave me a glowing reference, and landed a trial there. I was so nervous that I recorded every cocktail spec that Ryan, the bar manager at the time, sent me, and I listened to them over repeat for my trial shift, which I think I know, and I'm quite a erratic person, and I don't know why, but I just was really, really invested in this trial, and obviously, got the gig because I'd shown that I'd memorized every cocktail that they had on their list off by heart. Ryan was pretty impressed at that time because he did, after I'd been there for a while, you realise that people don't even show up for trials sometimes. And so I think just the fact that I cared that much and really wanted this gig, proved itself.
Well, what was it like working at Rockpool compared to the Maryvale group? What did you take in that period of time?
Definitely a more refined structure. Both companies do really look after their staff, but Rockpool kind of took it to that whole next level. So working there when, under Neil, and, how passionate he is about food and hospitality, really did funnel down to everybody. And you could really see that everybody that there at that time really cared about their jobs. And it was like a perfect machine, just all ticked over. Everybody knew their jobs, and you could really tell that was from, heavy preparation and, all the formalities of, leading up to each service and the briefings, and everything was really formalized, but it was never forgetting that at the end of the day, we're here to serve the customer and give them the experience that they deserve, because, you know, it's one of the most beautiful dining rooms I've ever been into. And yeah, they are there for, you know, special occasions, or and they really showed that and taught that.
You worked at one of Sydney's most important restaurants, Rockpool Bar and Grill, and moved to another of Sydney's most important restaurants, Pilu at Freshwater, with Marilyn and Giovanni. And, how different was that?
Very different. Just in terms of going to a large restaurant, where there was so many people involved, to going to a small family-run business, but still as much, you know, care and same philosophies. It was quite hard at the beginning for me, because there were people that had worked there for 10 years and they had their places, and coming from Rockpool and then almost starting back at the beginning was quite difficult for me. And yeah, I really struggled at the beginning to work there. But once, you know, I guess it, like any industry, people come and go. And I think at that time they had quite a few people come and go. But then realizing, oh no, this girl, she knows what she's doing, and she can, and she's invested. They started to really open up, and that's not, you know, Marilyn Giovanni, but, you know, they had a really close knit crew, and they did such incredible things there. And once, you know, you kind of are led into that circle, you do really see how much they care about the quality of food, the quality of service, and in such a beautiful venue, it was quite hard to not want to just jump in the ocean every day. But they're just the people that really prove that, you know, you can grow and transform, and, you know, they've been there for however long and they're still just doing incredible things, and the food is just beyond. Yeah.
We've had Marilyn and Giovanni on the show before. Do you have any stories of what it's like, or moments in time with them, what it's like to work with them?
They're some of the most passionate people I've definitely come across. They're hands-on. They're there making sure that everything's ticking over. Giovanni is just so passionate about what he does, and it's just so incredible. And it really does, it really does show that everybody is more motivated when they're around. And was really important for me to see Marilyn, you know, now opening a venue myself, to see such a strong person in a role of hers. It really was important for me. And when I did sit down with her and tell her what I was doing, she basically told me I was mad, and do I know what I'm really getting into? She kind of not tried to talk me out of it, but I think she realised, you know, if you want to stay in Sydney, like, let's sit down and talk about, you know, your role here. And I'd definitely made my mind up, but I have reached out to Marilyn and told her, you're absolutely right. No one would do this if they knew, you know, what they were getting themselves into. But, you know, it's rewarding at the end of the day, and it's exhilarating, and you know, services are fast, and you never know what you're walking into. And but I think that's the beauty of hospitality, and I really do think that every person should work in the service industry, especially hospitality. You know, the friendships you make, the people you come across, you know, from every avenue of life. And if you're open to that experience, you know, you can't buy that. Like, honestly, it's pretty incredible.
How did the Union Bank opportunity come about?
Being a creative and can never sit still, started my own jewellery business. So I studied jewellery manufacture whilst I was working at Rockpool, and absolutely loved that. So started my own business, and I did my first photo shoot with a girl that I'd met through school in Orange, and she called me and she said, I'm working for this PR company. There might be a good opportunity in Orange for Dom. And I said, "Oh no, he's in the peak of his career at Rockpool. He won't move from Sydney." But in the back of my mind, we had the lease sitting on our dining room table, and at that point, I was a little bit, growing up in the country, I was starting, the city life was starting to kind of frustrate me, and just living in an apartment and all the noise was really starting to weigh me down. And I'd kind of, prodded and said, maybe we'll move, or I'll move and I'll just come and visit you in Sydney to Dom. And he wouldn't have a bar of it. So just slowly, this girl, Annie, she just said, "Do you mind just sending me Dom's number? Nothing might come out of it, but if it does." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Before I could even tell Dom, this lady's calling Dom, and then Dom's calling me and going, "What the F have you done?" And I said, calm down, it's okay. And I just said, what have you got to lose by meeting up with these people? Like the worst thing you're gonna say is no, and then you move on and you keep doing what you're doing. And within probably a couple of months, he'd accepted the job, and we were back in Orange, and I was really loving my jewelry at the time, but we were struggling to find someone to run front of house here at the UB, and I said, I'll jump in until we find the right person. And 4 years later, here I am, and we're taking on a second venue, and I really wouldn't change it for the world.
Was it challenging moving back and sort of reintroducing yourself to the region?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when you grow up in a small town, everybody knows everybody. And I was this independent young woman that just wanted to, take over the world, and coming back to a town where people did know you, and also starting a venue that did have past lives was extremely difficult. And it did take its toll. I had a lot of self-doubt and a bit of anxiety around all of that. And that did kind of stay with me for quite a while. And I've always struggled to kind of trust myself and trust my ability. I'm very hard on myself. And we did have some, staff at the beginning, which, in hindsight taught me a lot of valuable lessons of, not trusting everybody and, standing your ground. But, reflecting back on that, it's really pushed us forward in terms of placing the right people around us, and I think it was hard at the beginning, but I wouldn't change it now.
You mentioned a second venue on the horizon. What are the plans?
Yeah, so we have the UB here, which has multiple spaces, but all those spaces are linked with a beautiful courtyard. So we do struggle to host over 60 guests here at the UB, and we did find a real gap in the market for large spaces in Orange to be able to host, 100, 200 people. And our team that we currently have, our beverage manager, Bon, who I actually worked with at Rockpool, he joined the Country Life. He is incredible at running events large scale, and we've done a few off-sites, and we really saw the opportunity to take on something larger, and it was more just conversations about maybe we do some off-sites, but there's an old venue called Turner's. It's a large-scale venue. It has 3 different spaces, and the largest space holds 450 people. So we did see a gap in the market, and we just sent an email, and a couple of weeks later we'd signed the lease for this new venue. And I think it's just more a great opportunity for Orange as a region to be able to host larger events. And, Dom and his team are so incredible. We all thrive in those larger events, and we realised that we would love to be able to have the opportunity to, to take this on and bring more people to the region, but also host food events, food week events and wine week events. And we just love how amazing our community is in terms of what it offers for the region and, beyond.
You've mentioned Dom a couple of times, who is your partner and the head chef as well. What's it like working together?
Hard. And that's putting it nicely. No, it really does come with its challenges. We are very different people. He's formalities, structure, getting things done far in advance. I'm creative. I'm all over the place. But that really works. We are very different people, so we see things very differently. And it has, I think, really placed us in a very good position, because he'll see something from one perspective and I'll see something from another perspective. And our third business partner will see it from another angle, and then we will literally sit around a table and have a conversation for hours. And it's always really proactive in the way we communicate, and we always come to the best outcome. In service, it can get a little bit heated, but we have really learnt over the years, and obviously with age and experience, we have removed the emotion in that service to get the best outcome. And we do try and just keep things professional, and people say don't take work home, but this is our lives, and we really do love it. And our staff, we have a really amazing team, and we all do love what we do, which is so incredibly lucky that we have a team like that. And we do talk about food all the time, and wine, and we do go down to our bar on a Tuesday that have specifically opened because nothing else in Orange is open on a Tuesday, because and we all just hash things out, and I think just over time we have realised how good of a team we are, and we use our strengths and weaknesses,
You're doing amazing things out there in Orange with Union Bank. What do you love about what you do?
I love that someone can come into a venue and walk away with one of the most memorable experience. And it doesn't have to be, all fireworks, and, it really comes down to the warmth and the way you greet somebody, I think, is so integral to an experience. I just love hosting people and making people feel comfortable within a space. We're welcoming people basically into our homes, and if they're not feeling comfortable, then there's something wrong there. But
Well, Sarah, it's amazing what you guys are doing out there, and an absolute honour to have you on Deep in the Weeds today to hear your story. Good luck with the new venue, and please keep in touch, and we'll catch up again soon.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.